Can you imagine shooting a movie underwater, interacting with CGI, and then just doing it all over again right after? We'd hope you'd understand because you are in Avatar: The Way of Water. If not, just let the cast and crew explain a little of the magic behind the madness that was this epic adventure.
This is not a squad, it is a family.
Avatar 2 did need to work hand in hand with CGI for the film to work, but it relied a lot more on the acting, specifically with facial expressions. Each actor was rigged up with a camera that pointed at their face close up, just to make sure not even an eyebrow twitch was left out in post. Those dots around their mouths and eyes are just little bits of marker to allow the CGI to pick up on the even finer and more subtle expressions.
The actor creates the emotion, the actor creates the moment.
James Cameron thought of everything when building the sets. He didn't just leave it up to the digital artists. He and his team created platforms in sound stages to emulate the scenes they were moving in. And because working on CGI when combined with real actors can be rather difficult to get accurately, he built small pieces of the digital scene that the actors would bump into. But more on that one a little later. Kate said she had a tough time getting used to interacting with digital monsters. She reminisces on a little mishap on set when she accidentally stabbed incorrectly at a fake monster.
That's quite tricky because you think you're gonna ram it into somebody who isn't even there.
It took her a few times to finally get it right, and this embarrassing moment just broke her into the world of Pandora. We can't judge Sam, as the language of the Na'vi is quite difficult to get a grasp on.
I'd have to learn them rope. You have to write them on boards for me.
But apparently, since the first Avatar movie, Worthington has needed crew members to hold up big cue cards for his scenes speaking in the language. This is quite funny considering he does remember one particular word.
Werit or Alibu. I have no idea. It's the only one I could remember.
We just still can't wrap our minds around the thought of the underwater cue cards though. James Cameron instructed his actors to say their lines underwater, but to make sure not to blow bubbles because this could mess up the CGI. This seemed like a good plan to the rest of the cast, but poor Kate Winslet just couldn't get a grasp on it. She was so terrified of choking on the water that she struggled a bit with that request. It could have been a branch, tree, or spear. James just picked each one out carefully when filming the scenes.
We don't build the coral, we build that which they need to touch.
Not only to make the CGI feel more fluid, but to also give the actors something tangible on a non-existent set. That's also why a lot of the weapons you see the actors holding behind the scenes were more real, since it would be more difficult to just CGI those. You spend so much time underwater, it might be a little difficult to get back on land. That was the case for Jack Champion, who almost took a slip for the worst while filming this land scene.
So the amount of times I actually slipped and slammed my hip on the thing, that's really hard.
The fact that the only close call for Jack was on land really says a lot about the skill of this cast. A couple years after the premiere of Avatar, James and his team began brewing a 5-movie plan. They had already finished the scripts for the next 3 films before they even filmed 2, giving them a clear outline of the franchise. By combining the filming of 2 and 3, and even some of 4, they were able to give the actors some time off before jumping into full gear in the next set of films. VFX supervisor Joe Leitieri spoke about filming so many at once, and how to deal with the chaos, saying, "Story-wise, there was some overlap with the sets that needed to be built, but we were going to focus on 3 first. Stephen Lang struggled a lot to get past his naturally kind personality to play the Colonel, that he kind of starved himself every morning. Some of us can agree that this is a great way to put someone in a bad mood, but it doesn't end there for his preparation. He also likes to work out for long periods of time and look at himself in the mirror.
I get in front of the mirror, have a good look at myself, preen for a little while.
Remember when Disney acquired 21st Century Fox? Well, that happened while James was getting a 3-hour Avatar 2 picture in the can. This caused quite a bit of ruckus with the new company, but he was able to convince the team it was justified. The way he put it, because it's a complicated linear narrative, which is the worst scenario for trying to shorten. You've got a complex story servicing a lot of characters, and it's like dominoes falling. This has to happen for that to happen. You're not following a bunch of parallel plot lines in a way that you could take a lot out. Kate Winslet held her breath for a whopping 7 minutes and 15 seconds, breaking the record Tom Cruise had set during Mission Impossible. The crazy thing about this one is that Kate literally learned to do this in 3 weeks. This was really the biggest reason she took the role in the first place too, just to get some free underwater training. For Sigourney Weaver, this was a challenge, but a challenge she welcomed.
I want to become the teenager that I used to be and see where she and Carrie meet.
She did a lot to prepare for this role, including jumping in on a few classes filled with teenagers. That may not have been a good thing at times, but she all in all found it a very enjoyable experience.
There was just a lightness in her being.
You know why Steven has to do so much to get into character? He's the set's nicest guy. His co-stars attest to him being the exact opposite of his character, and just can't fathom how quickly he can switch on and off.
Slang is the nicest person you'll ever meet, unless he's in character.
James Cameron sort of had a laid-back experience with the whole thing, only having to focus on his actors' performances, the camera as well. But a lot of the times the camera moves were done digitally, or he'd just put full trust in his cinematographers. The long-awaited reunion of James Cameron and Kate Winslet may not have happened for this movie, had it not been for a strange Hollywood occurrence.
I just was blown away.
Kate has always been quite busy in her career. Ever since her big role in Cameron's Titanic, it almost seemed impossible for her to star in any Avatar movie. All it took was Cameron mentioning her being underwater for most of the film, that she agreed to take on the challenge.
He said, hey, we have to get you in and we have to get you big and blue. And I said, I'd love that.
Oh, and by the way, you know this is the only time she's ever worked with the same director twice? Pretty strange Hollywood occurrence for sure. These actors' bodies have just turned into prunes most likely, but this is only the beginning unfortunately. Where do you want to see the story go next? Let us know in the comments.